Hello and welcome to On Point. I'm Sophie Ashley. Human trafficking experts report more than 700 cases of human trafficking in California in 2015. 80% of those cases are exploiting victims for sex, while the other 20% are used for labor. California passed its first laws against human trafficking in 2005. Last month, Governor Brown signed a new bill to help minors who have been forced into sex trafficking. Los Angeles State Senator Holly Mitchell says her bill's purpose is to decriminalize minors and support the victims involved in the industry.
Senate Bill 1322 was a result of conversations with survivors groups and a number of organizations who really fundamentally understood that there's no such thing as a child prostitute, and that we needed to change our state law so we wouldn't continue to, victimize or criminalize women and young men who are victims of sex trafficking.
Los Angeles is one of 3 cities in California with the highest rate of trafficking. Police recently made 200 arrests on Lankershim and Sepulveda, 2 major streets in the San Fernando Valley. Trafficking experts say that the valley has one of the biggest problems with sex trafficking in Los Angeles. The average reported age for sexually exploited children is 15 to 17 years, but they may start when even younger. Saving Innocence is one of many nonprofits that provide support for minors in the industry. Amber Davies is the director of clinical programs.
So the laws are different with minors versus adults, and we recognize that the needs are different as well. So we work with minors ages 11 to 18, although oftentimes the kids need support after that as well. We think it's important that these are kids, and it's important that kids are treated as kids and that kids get to be kids. And so we are there to support them because the needs are similar to adults, but when they're minors, a lot of times they're more easily victimized because they have so much less choice in the matter.
Other solutions may lie in prevention. CSUN professor Dr. Henrik Minasayans is conducting a study for the LAPD Operations Valley Bureau Task Force, which looks at environmental factors in their relationship to prostitution.
The issue became that we assumed that if there would be less light, canopy trees, and et cetera, there would be more attracting prostitutes, and where the lights are, there would be fewer prostitutes, or where the residents they can see more, there would be fewer prostitution. But our initial finding was exactly opposite of that. Prostitutes would stand exactly where the lights are, so they are visible by patrons that they are going to pick them up. And then for the purpose of the act itself, they would go to places that they were darker or less visible in order to do the act. It was a matter of what type of a built environment was. And at the end, and then we recommended for those areas that there were less visibility, what changes needs to happen, which is adding lights, trimming the trees, changing the street signs. We even recommended to make changes to the street directions in order to make it harder for the cars to turn and come back in order to look for prostitutes, adding center dividers. And one of the findings is that actually there are, as I explained, that there's an element of territoriality, and we are assuming that residents, they would protect their own territory. We found out that actually in communities that prostitution is occurring, residents are less participant in observing what goes on. But actually pimps are. Pimps, they have their own eyes on the street, that they are constantly watching to see what's happening, what's occurring in order to protect, in this case, the girls.
On Point's Gabrielle Ortega has more on the story.
Thank you, Sophie. Today on our panel, we have Stephany Molen, the Director of Partnerships of Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking, Kanthi Salgadu, an advocate to end human trafficking and a survivor, and the Executive Director of Journey Out, Dr. Stephany Powell. All right, so my first question really is for all of you. What exactly is human trafficking? Ms. Molen, would you like to start?
Human trafficking is when someone has been the use of force, fraud, or coercion has been used against them, there's both 2 types of human trafficking, both labor and sex trafficking. Would you like me to talk about both?
Yes, if you could.
So labor trafficking is, when someone through forced fraud or coercion has been obtained and forced to produce labor. Sometimes that could be through working in someone's home and being a domestic servant, or working in the hotel industry. Pretty much every industry can have a labor. And then sex trafficking is someone through, prostitution. It can also be prostitution on the streets, phone sex, video. There's a lot of different forms of sex trafficking as well.
Okay, and there are a lot of different statistics on human trafficking. Why is this a hard number to quantify? Dr. Powell?
And one thing I would like to add to the definition of as it pertains to human sex trafficking is because oftentimes people think of it only happening on an international level, where it also happens on the domestic level as well. It's happening here in the United States. The other misnomer tends to be that people think that it only happens with children, whereas adults are victims of human sex trafficking as well. And labor, I would assume my expertise is more on the lines of sex trafficking. And often when we talk about it, we also forget that there are boys and men that are involved in this as well. So I think that it's so huge, it's hard to cover all of one, but I just wanted to add to that. I think the reason why it's hard to capture the statistics is that sometimes it just goes unreported. It goes unreported. The victims don't see themselves as victims, so therefore they're not going to report it. So when we talk about these numbers, just know that those are reported numbers. A lot of times those reported numbers are the result of police reports. So if that's how we're capturing the numbers, that means the numbers are probably even greater than what we know.
Okay, and would you like to explain to me, how is it that people become victims to this slavery? How is it that they become involved in it?
Well, they become involved in many different ways. You have, you're considered the guerrilla pimp, where somebody may actually get kidnapped or snatched. Or the more common way is through a romance, where they present themselves as a boyfriend. You also have the internet. Social media is a way that people have become involved in this. And it's interesting, the stats will show that about 80% are coming from the foster system. So then the question becomes, who are the other 20%? And the other 20% are coming from homes that one might be considered normal, professional parents, two-parent homes, college students. So the bottom line is that this really can be anybody's daughter or son.
And if I could add to that, when it comes to labor trafficking in our foreign national population, most of them who come into the country are coming into the country legally and with, U visas or J visas. And a company will bring them in here through a recruiter. They're coming here specifically for a job, but it's a very vulnerable place to be. So we find that human trafficking victims a lot of times are those individuals who are vulnerable in our community and are in transition. And I don't know if Kanthi has anything else you'd like to add to that.
Yes, like the human trafficking for my situation that I also meet in our survivor group that we have many other survivors who come with employer from my country or different country to United States, and after they come here they will hold their passport, visas, and they don't, we don't have any money, we don't get paid working 7 days a week, sometimes 16 hours, sometimes 24 hours a day. So it is really difficult, but we need to advocate other people and advocate people who are coming from different countries that this can happen to you. You need to have a second a plan. If this happened to you, what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm. And Ms. Salgadu, being a survivor of human trafficking, do you mind sharing your story with how you became involved in this?
Yes. At that time, I didn't know that I have in 1996. I was 17 years old, and I just graduated from high school, and I was planning to go to college. And that time, my both parents was very sick. My father was the only one who earning money, but he have a heart problem, and he was not able to work. And in Sri Lanka is not like United States. If you are sick, you don't have money, the government is not going to support you. There is no, it's a poor country. And so we didn't have money, and I decided that I want to help my parents. And in Sri Lanka or any other Asian country, it's very common that people go to different countries like a Middle East and Singapore or Malaysia, and they work there for 2-3 years, and they help their families and come back home, and they have better life. So I decided that I want to go to an agency and I get help. And then I went to the agency. They say, you don't have to do anything. We will help you, and you will have a good job, better pay. That's how I got involved in the trafficking situation. And then I came to agency found me a place to work as a housekeeper and nanny. And when I came to work for them, when I left my country, I have this big dream that I will help my family. I will go back to college after 2 years later. After I came to, I left my country, I came to work. Everything changed. They took away my passport, and they took away that whatever I have, even my picture album of my parents, my family, and they told me that if I don't do what they say, I will be punished. And then my family will be punished. And my payment was like $150, which is very little. But that time I didn't know that how much of salary I supposed to get. And that time I didn't speak much English. And so I didn't know what to do, and I was very young.
And you were completely taken advantage of. How were you able to be saved from this?
So I was working in a house as a nanny and housekeeper, and I left 1996. So every time I asked from my trafficker, I want to go home, I want to see my parents, I need to send them money. That's why I came to work. And I have to help my nieces and nephews. I'm not here to work all the time. But they keep telling me that you are here to work, you won't go back. And sometimes my trafficker get very violent and hate me and tell me that I will be here for the rest of my life. And then finally, one of the neighbors have heard something, and I could have just walk out from the house, but I don't know where I can go, who I can go and ask, and where I going to go from when I can walk out from the door. Where I going to go? So the only people I know was them. I didn't know anybody else, and they told me that it's a very bad area. United States is very bad. People get killed when they go out, and people get raped when they go out. So I didn't know. I was so scared, and I don't have any document, any money. So finally, one of the neighbors had called the U.S. immigration and told them that somebody is working in the house and being threatened by the people who are in the house. And the U.S. After I came to work for them for 1996, and the U.S. immigration came to rescue me in May 12th, year 2000. But finally, I was rescued, and when I walk out from that door, I know that I am free. They cannot hold me. So that's why I am sharing my story, because if that person had not called, I could still be there, because I don't know what to do. And right now, like, I'm sharing my story, and I'm telling other people that they can open their eyes and see that somebody else is working in the beauty parlor or house or anywhere, that why this person is not getting a day off, why this person is always in the house, why this person is so scared to look at people.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your advocacy. Ms. Molen, are cases like this common at Castellet?
They are. Castellet has been around for 18 years, and primarily 60% of our clients are labor cases, and a lot of them are situations where it was a neighbor or just someone observing a situation, seeing something and saying something that really got them out. And what we have seen is that through the force, fraud, and coercion, traffickers are using, violence and fear. They're telling individuals, you don't have rights in this country, and making them very afraid of law enforcement. We serve clients that have come from 58 different countries, and law enforcement is represented very differently in a lot of those countries. So, if you had a bad experience with law enforcement at home and then you come to this country and you hear that, you're going to be deported, no one will take care of you, there's just a lot of fear there. And our clients really have to, work through that. And we also find with the clients, especially, both labor and sex trafficking clients, sometimes it's really hard to go to court and to take their traffickers to court. They want out. They want to start their lives. They came to this country to start their lives, to work hard, and they want that opportunity. And we provide wraparound services and work with our clients for years. Kanthi is part of our Survivor Caucus, and we're trying to help them to restart their lives and move forward. And I think that's really important to have those resources for individuals who are victims, to make sure we can support them, moving on and being survivors of human trafficking.
Okay, and Dr. Powell, Journey Out specifically works with women who are sexually exploited. What are some of the different cases you deal with?
So we actually, we not only help women, but we assist any victim of human sex trafficking. So primarily we are involved in human sex trafficking, and we've been around for 34 years. Primarily we started out helping adult victims of human trafficking, and we have now parlayed into the youth aspect of it. So we will primarily get our clients through other organizations. We have an MOU with CAST, as well as the court systems. We have an agreement with the city attorney's office that if a person has been arrested for the crime of prostitution, we have a diversion program that they can go through, and once they complete that, then that particular case is dismissed. We also have an agreement with the district attorney's office in their First Step program, and that deals with the minor aspect of it, and so we do the intervention piece in terms of the diversion program, because the First Step program with the DA's office has multiple moving parts, and so therefore we do the intervention aspect of it. But also we actually go out on the street, out onto the blades or the tracks, and we give out information to the people that have been exploited there, regardless of whether they're male or female. And we not only give information on our particular organization, but other organizations in the area as well, and also the national hotline. So we get our clients in various ways.
Mm-hmm. And oftentimes there is a misconception that human sex trafficking is prostitution. Will you explain the difference?
So when you talk about human sex trafficking, you're talking about something that is going to be pimp-driven, and that's where your coercion, your force, the manipulation part comes into play. But this has always been an argument, because someone will say, okay, well, and sometimes it happens with funding. If the victim doesn't have a pimp or a trafficker at that particular time, she may not be considered to be sex trafficked. Our argument is that if we say that the average entry age is between 12 and 14 years old, conceivably with our clients, they may be 23, 24, and they've been with that same pimp since they were 14 years old. Now, maybe to that pimp or within that stable, she has what they consider to be aged out. So now she may be 25. Now she's working on her own, but she's in this situation because she can't find a job, or she's tatted all over her face. And it's based on what has happened to her between those ages of 12 and 14 years of age. So even though she may not have a pimp right then and there, the things that have happened to her prior to that are causing her not to be able to go in and get a regular job or to go to school. So that type of victim, it's very important to understand her because she needs the services as well.
All right. And do you think LA, this is for everyone, do you think LA is headed in the right direction of ending human trafficking? Ms. Molen, would you like to start?
I think Los Angeles is doing a really great job. We are unfortunately one of the major hotspots in the nation for human trafficking because we are a port city, we have international airports. There's a lot of people coming here domestically as well as foreign nationally. And while there's a lot of work to be done, we have some really great organizations. Recently, the Los Angeles Regional Human Trafficking Task Force was started in Los Angeles, and it's a coalition of the LA Sheriff's Department and CAST as overseeing the task force. And our coalition is with other task force service providers, LAPD, coming together to really create good protocols on how we're going to serve these clients. And what's been a major difference in, I'd say, the last 5 years is really identifying, to speak to Dr. Powell's point, that minors cannot consent to a sexual act. So if there is a minor who is creating a sexual act, they do not have consent and therefore they're a victim. And that hasn't always been the case. We have, clients that have been, arrested for prostitution under the age of 18 when really they should have been seen as victims. The Sheriff's Department has stated there is no child prostitute. And I would say within LAPD as well as going to our supervisors, there's a lot of support on focusing on sex trafficking. Where we need to focus more attention to is see how we can get into cases on labor trafficking. 80% of human trafficking cases across the nation are labor. And there's very little coalition building and detective work going into that, but we have some really great ideas, and we're working with Department of Justice and Office of Victims of Crime to start focusing on those cases and focusing on labor.
Okay, and then what can we as a community member do to help stop human trafficking? Dr. Powell?
So I think that as a community, I think the awareness piece, exactly what we're doing here, the awareness piece for people to understand that anybody can become a victim of this. So if you understand that you can become a victim, and the awareness piece is knowing what to do not to become a victim. So that's one aspect of it. I think the community needs to pay attention to what bills are out there for them to be able to vote and get behind. I think that the community needs to help in terms of monies. One of the things that we lack in is residential programming. Because it's one thing to be able to help a victim, but these victims also need a safe place to live and programming. And that's one of the areas I think that we lack, not only here in Los Angeles, but it's a nationwide problem as it pertains to this. I think awareness needs to be brought as it pertains to the labor aspect of it, because I believe that labor is hiding in plain sight.
Yes, and we do there's a national hotline, so anyone who's hearing this or seeing this, you can call the National Hotline for Human Trafficking, but CAST also has a 24-hour hotline. And it's there not only for an individual who might be identifying as human trafficked, but someone like you and I. If we see something, maybe we went to get our nails done at a salon and we overheard someone being mistreated, or someone in your neighborhood, call us. you can give a tip, but also you can get some information on how you can help that individual. And so if you see something, please say something and call.
I'm going to add something to that too, because the many times people think, oh, somebody else going to call, somebody else is going to do this. No, just don't second guess it. Because if that person didn't call for me, I will be still there. And in the survivor group, I meet many other survivors. They've been trafficked for 2 years. Some of them for 26 years. So it's very important that keep your eye open, and also go to the organization like CAST and get the information and learn about what is human trafficking, and do a volunteer work or just a small donation. That way, a CAS, organization like a CAS can help survivors, and I see the survivors like a global, and also from right here in the our neighborhood, and we don't have to go somewhere else. Start from here.
Okay, thank you so much, but I'm afraid that's all the time we have left on this panel. I really appreciate all of you guys for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I found them at work, on a desk, laying out in the open. Copied them, shared them on a website. Now I'm facing up to 3 years in jail. It's scary. Who knows where it's going? I mean, who's gonna hire me? Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Thank you for watching On Point. You can follow us on social media at CSUN On Point. You can watch us on LA 36 on Sunday mornings at 11:30, and you can listen on KCSN 88.5 FM at 5:30 in the morning, also on Sundays. For all of us here at On Point, I'm Sophie Ashley.